It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, November 7th, 2019, which leaves us with only 57 days left to make the very best of 2019. It's honestly hard to believe that there are only 57 days left in this year. It's kind of crazy. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. This year has flown by. This was a year that, was a big year of anticipation for me, if I'm being honest. I think that, I turned 40 this year. My man Judd Burden's on here. He turned 40 9 days after I did. And, that 40 point was a big point of reference for me. It was like, where am I going to be in my life when I turn 40? What will my life look like? What will my family look like? How much success did I create for myself and for others? And now, you look back and you realize that year that you turned 40 is almost over. We only got 57 days left, and you guys know how it goes when you get to the Thanksgiving holiday season, all that kind of stuff. Time goes by like that, and the next thing you know, it'll be 2020, and I think it's important to evaluate that stuff as you get to 2020, as we start to approach the end of the year. I think it's important for us to constantly be evaluating, but most definitely, once you start getting towards the end of a year, looking back and seeing how much progress you made. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. And, kind of my thoughts over the last couple of days here is where this morning's topic came from, and I think it'll be hugely beneficial. We're going to dive into this in a ton of detail over the next few weeks. For those of you who are contractors and part of the Top Contractor Elite program, we're going to really dive into this. We're going to give you some real tactical ways to do this inside of your business and also in your life, but just some ways to really get your arms around how much progress you're making, how things look, how can you do better, how, just from every angle, you want to be constantly evaluating. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So I want to say good morning to some people. Good morning, Trisha. Derek Geist, what's happening, man? That dude tunes in, and he is on the West Coast, so it's early as heck out there. I want to know what time that guy gets up. But good morning, Dean, Dayton, Darren, what's happening, man? And Judd, Patricia, as always here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please share this out, guys. I think this is a topic that a lot of people really need to hear, and I think it's one that a lot of people really breeze over and don't really think about a whole lot, and it's one that can help people make a ton of progress if they can get it correct. And so, we're going to talk about preparing for your own 2019 year-end review. And when I say preparing for your own 2019 year-end review, I think personally that you should be always doing your own year-end review month by month, day by day, week by week. And I'm going to tell you how I do that, or at least how I try to do that. I'm far from perfect when it comes to a lot of the things that I talk about, and I'll talk to you guys about the challenges that I have through the process of trying to get some structure, trying to get as much structure and discipline into my life as I possibly can. But let's first just talk about the list of things that you want to be evaluating. And this might be, if you guys are in front of a piece of paper, this might be one that you want to take some notes on because I think that it's important for you guys to literally start to compound this list of things that you want to be evaluating in your life that are going to ultimately lead to my last bullet point here. So we've got the things that you want to review in your life. Or second by second if you're me. That's probably true, Trish. Thank you. But it's, your family. How are things going in your family? There were some things that I was thinking about yesterday with my family that I want to do better. We go through these seasons throughout the year where things get really busy, things get really intense, and we have to we don't stay as close to our family as we want to. That's the reality, right? And sometimes we're so focused on what we're doing with work or trying to make this next, jump to success to another level or whatever it is. And so, you want to review that situation with your family. I created a screensaver for my phone that has some goals on it, and I constantly want to be reevaluating those goals to include some of those things. Judd sent me his screensaver that he put together the other day, and it had a lot of family stuff on there, and so that was an inspiration to me to do the same, a reminder, right? The second thing you want to be evaluating if you're married or in a relationship is your marriage, right? How is your marriage? How are you pouring into that marriage as much as you should? We all have moments where we don't do that to the level that we should. We're not, always putting that first. And that's an important thing to constantly be evaluating and correcting and working towards, setting those goals, having those conversations within your marriage that will allow you to take things to the next level, to fall deeper in love, to have more enjoyable moments, more memories, more significance in your marriage. Your business, obviously, whatever you do for a living is important in your life. You want to constantly be evaluating that. How does that look? And by the way, those first two things usually lead to greater success in business. And I'll get to explaining how that is here in a minute. But your business, you always want to be evaluating. And we're going to talk about the needs to track different things and have data that you can track that allows you to see your progress here in a second. But when it comes to business, numbers matter, relationships matter. Where are you in the progress of where you set your goals to be at the beginning of the year, towards the end of the year? What happened that threw you off of those goals, and how did you overcome that? All of those things are really important to keep perspective on, because it's what allows you to continue pushing forward. Friendships and relationships. Where were you 365 days ago with regard to relationships? Who is new in your life? What do those relationships look like? Who did you remove from your life? Was that beneficial or not? Do you have some people hanging around that maybe need to be removed from your life that you've let go this entire year, and you need to figure out what you're going to do there? Your finances, have you set financial goals for yourself, and where are you plus or minus to those goals? Have you made some progress? Were there things that kicked you off track? All of those things need to be evaluated. But the last thing on my list of bullets here is truly looking at your life and looking at, today versus 365 days ago. How happy are you? How fulfilled are you? That's the ultimate measure for me. To me, fulfillment leads to success in every other aspect. If you don't feel fulfilled in your life, and that's a combination of everything, by the way. If you don't feel fulfilled in your marriage, in your family, in your business, in your relationships, your friendships, if you're not fulfilled in your finances, those are the things that you have to take the time to correct, so that feeling of fulfillment, it just gets you through those tough times, right? It gets you through those moments where you have that moment that you just get punched in the face. Something happens to you in your life, and you need to create that momentum forward to be able to, get back on track, reach another level, whatever that is. But fulfillment is what allows you to keep going, when in other cases, a lot of people wouldn't keep going, right? And so I want to talk to you guys about how exactly to do that. And I think that this is the number one thing that I think people miss, and it doesn't allow them to truly evaluate their progress, either good or bad. And so we all know that weeks, months, quarters, years go by in a flash, right? We look back and we say, man, where did the time go? I feel like yesterday it was just January, and now it's already, we're looking 57 days from the end of this year. So the key to being able to properly review your progress, obviously, is having a record of it. And so that can be done in a variety of ways. A lot of people have systems within their companies that allow them to track different things. So whether that's a CRM or a customer tracking system, a financial system, QuickBooks or some sort of record keeping on the finances of your company. And I can tell you, and Trisha can speak to this, at the Payment Group, we do a lot of tracking, and we try to keep that tracking up to date and super accurate. I am a stickler for keeping those numbers accurate because I want to keep records of where we are and our progress. So that, again, next year, I can look back at this year at the same exact time and see where are we, plus or minus. What's the story? What's the history? That is also important. That's an easy example for business because I think everybody has or should have some sort of record keeping in their business. If you don't, reach out to me and I can get you something that will at least get you somewhat on track of being able to keep good records that at least give you some point of reference of how you're doing in your business. So you can keep those records in a lot of cases digitally within your business, right? The other part of your business is either a planner or some sort of records that you keep. If it's writing in a journal every single day about where you are, how things are going. But that planner, if I go back in my planner, that planner will tell me a story about where we are, what we went through, how the days were, what goals I set, how productive I was, and then ultimately what the end result was of those types of situations. I can literally go back in my planner and see what state of mind I was in based on the quote of the day that I wrote down in my planner, based on the goals that I had, the successes that I had for those days. For those of you who haven't seen the planner that I use, I can shoot it over to you guys. If you just shoot me a DM, I'm happy to share that. And it's as easy as printing out the pages of this planner, front to back, and just 3-hole punching them and putting them in a skinny little binder, right? And you can create your own, basically almost $0. I think you can buy one of those binders for like $3 at the store, and then all you have to have is a printer that'll print out these pages, and you can create a daily binder for a daily journal for yourself, a planner, a goal-setting thing. It's all on there that will keep you moving forward. But having that planner is a great record of how you are doing, how you're progressing, how things are going in your business, how things are going in your life. And so for me, that planner is really important because it's all inclusive of everything I do. And one of the most important boxes on that planner for me is your daily successes. Because I think that you guys will all agree that we are very critical of ourselves for what we don't do. What we fall short on, it's very easy for us to point out in ourselves. That is how human beings are wired for some reason. But what happens is when you start to write down your successes every single day, and by the way, guys, I've said this before, but for me, today I've got an appointment to go get my hair cut. That is an important thing for me to get done because it's hard for me to do it sometimes. It's hard for me to squeeze something like that into my schedule. And so when I get that done, believe it or not, that is kind of a success for me because it's something that gets delayed. It could be for you going to the dentist if you've been putting it off for a long time. Anything that puts you on the track of, doing the right things in your life creates momentum. And when you write those things down, you start to feel accomplished. And when you start to feel accomplished, you create momentum. But without record of it, you will not be able to look back and truly evaluate where you're at in your life and how far you've come this month, this week, this quarter, this year. It's important for you to have records. And the final example that I have is look at your social media posts. It's very interesting for people that go on this journey of self-development, this journey of improvement, that connect themselves to groups of people like the people that watch this show every single morning. And you look back at your life, Facebook is kind enough to remind you of what you posted in the past. And it's funny because my wife and I will laugh about this from time to time because we all have posts that we put out years ago that we look at and say like, man, I can't believe that I posted that on social media, right? I can't believe that I was focused on this particular thing, or I posted something that was dramatic or negative or whatever it is. But those are all records of not the negative, but a positive based on how far you've come. For you to be able to look back and see that progress year to year, month to month, week to week. Where have you come? If you are in a bad spot professionally right now, where you're just underwater, you got a lot on your plate, look back in a week and see how much you got done. But you can't do that if you don't keep records of it. So I think it's really important for you guys to implement things into your business, into your personal life, and then use all of the resources that are available to us today through technology, social media, all that kind of stuff, to keep record of that and be able to go back and look at, where were you? Create a YouTube channel. It'll be a great example for you of how far you've come. I used this example with Keith Calloway a couple of days ago. He was telling me, man, it's been a joy watching your journey. And he said, I need to put myself out there more. I need to be more vulnerable. And I said, I couldn't agree more, man. I said, an example would be, taking on speaking engagements for me. Years ago, I would have never taken on a speaking engagement without like a detailed, laid out plan, of every single word that I was going to say. And today, it's not a big deal to me. I've practiced enough. I've gone through enough repetitions doing stuff like this, speaking to people, that it doesn't bother me anymore. And that's a sign of progress. But being able, the next thing that I have here is being able to look back with the proper perspective on where you've been and what you've accomplished is a very important part of being able to continue your progress forward. And it's a very important part of how fast you will progress forward. It's really, really, really important for you to keep the proper perspective. And here's why. We are always very critical of what we haven't achieved versus looking at how much progress we've made. Now, here's the critical piece of this that I think a lot of people get wrong is, everybody has this meter of highs and lows. And the most successful people in the world that I have studied, that I've been around, that I've interacted with, that I've had the opportunity to ask questions, all have one thing in common. And that is that they don't get too high or too low, and they don't spend too much time focused on one individual result. They always have a plan, and they're always working that plan forward. And as they make progress, they take a minute to recognize that. They take a minute to recognize their team, celebrate with the people around them who helped them get there, but they never take too much time celebrating. And so I'll give you an example. A lot of people probably watch NFL football or are familiar with it. And nothing drives me more crazy than when a team is losing, they score a touchdown, and the whole team goes down into the end zone for this elaborate celebration of what they just did. But they are still losing the game. And to me, that is a sign of a lack of focus on those individuals for not going back to the sidelines and starting to plan forward on how they're going to do that exact activity again. How are we going to score again? And I'm not saying not to celebrate, but a big elaborate celebration when you are still losing the game is not something that you want to get in the habit of doing, because it's not going to be something that serves you. Understanding how you accomplish what you just accomplished is the key to being able to do it again. And so when you're looking at, as you approach the end of the year here, I think it's really important. Trisha mentioned two of her main personal goals for 2020 is to get in a morning routine and utilize her planner. And I can tell you guys for sure, without a doubt, from my own personal experience, what utilizing a planner and getting organized and having a morning routine that you start to follow religiously and creating a rhythm in your life in the morning, what that will do for you. It will create success beyond your imagination in every aspect of your life. It will give you a place to go back to when you are off course. It will give you that course correction that you're looking for, that creates calmness in your life, that creates an easy to see path of how you get where you're trying to go. It is the one consistent thing that you will find in every successful person is that they have a process. They have a morning routine that gets them into the day on rhythm and on their focus, where they're not reacting to everything that happens to them throughout the day. They have a plan, and no matter what comes at them throughout the day, they have the ability to handle that because they're prepared, right? So when you look at your year-end in review, you want to start looking at where did you fall short and how can you avoid that from happening again next year? And I believe that a lot of this will lead to when you guys look at, some of the things that didn't go well for you this year, you will look at that started with a lack of organization, a lack of focus, a lack of intentionality in one of these areas: family, marriage, business, friendships, relationships, finances, fulfillment. If you don't have your focus and your plan in those areas, then you're just going to be reacting to everything, and that's a bad way to live. Don Manzo, great question, man. How do you keep your momentum at the level you're at during the off season? This is the first time I'm going through this. Any suggestions? Absolutely, brother. I think number one is that you have to continue to work on your craft, whether that's reading books, joining a program of something that helps you develop, helps you establish a process for your business, helps you, just kind of gain a new perspective. You have to educate yourself. So, in every off season that I've ever had, man, I use that to grow my business, to create the vision for next year. So as I'm doing this year-end review for myself, for our business, I look at those things and then I immediately start utilizing those shortcomings and successes from this year to start to plan 2020 in a very detailed and laid out fashion. What do we want to do in revenue? How many employees do we want to have? What does that look like? At what point in the season do we need to bring on additional people, if that's the case, if that's your vision? But I think that you have to keep active as the number one. And I'm not saying don't take any time off. Everybody kind of takes a little bit of a breather, at least in our business, Dom. I think that, people take a second to kind of catch their breath. It's been a long year. We've all probably, taken a lot of hits along the way of ups and downs throughout the season. We're physically exhausted, mentally exhausted. So take a second to recharge, but take an intentional second to recharge. And then after that, it's time to go to work. And, that is business planning, looking at the year in review, sitting down with your employees. That's one of the things we're going to go through in Top Contractor Elite next week is how do you have those types of conversations? What do they look like? And making sure that those are positive and productive and looking forward and doing the same things that we're talking about this morning for those people in your life to keep them focused, right? To keep them looking forward, keep them excited about the future, keep them bought into the vision of where we're all going as a group, as a family, within your business. Where are you going? Where are you going within your family at home, right? Where are you going within your marriage? Where are you going? Every single one of those aspects that we went through this morning has an aspect to it of vision casting, of looking forward. What does it look like? How do we scale? Where do we want to get to next year? And then what does it take to actually do that? And Dom, I will tell you, there's a lot of progress that can be made in growing your business when everybody else is sitting on their ass doing nothing. And that's a critical piece in our business of being able to make significant progress, are those months where most of the companies in our world of construction, when it's snowing outside, they're not doing anything. They're not prospecting customers. They're not building their business. They're not looking forward. They're not business planning. And if they are, they're doing it very little. I would say a majority of companies that I have seen don't do a very good job of that. And so if you do a good job of that, you're going to dominate your market, you're going to grow your business, and you're going to look back at your year end of 2020, you're going to look back and say, man, that momentum that I created in December, January, February, when everybody else was asleep at the wheel, is exactly what catapulted me into this position that I'm at right now. So great question, man, and thank you for asking. But I hope this has helped, guys. I hope it's been beneficial for you. Look at, it's November 7th, so there's nothing wrong with starting to look back at this year and start to make some adjustments and start to look at 2020. You want to stay present and make sure you're finishing off the year strong, but I also think that it's important as you start to get to the end of the year to look at and start evaluating all of those things that happened throughout this year, and then how you can create a stronger foundation that you can build a bigger life, a bigger business, a bigger marriage, bigger relationships, a bigger financial reward for you and your family next year. That is what it's all about. And if anybody has any questions on this, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help in any way that I can. A quick 5-minute, 10-minute phone call, I'm always open to. So if this is something that really interests you, we can dig into this in way more detail, not on this show where we're not limited for time. I can set up a Zoom call or something like that. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. And again, for those contractors out there, if this is something that seems beneficial to you, this is just a very small piece of what we'll dig into and get into in Top Contractor Elite. And that's not me trying to sell you that program, but for $150 a month or $1,500 for the year, the value that you'll get out of these little things that we put in place that'll help structure your business and keep you on track is well worth that investment. And you get connected to a bunch of winners in that program as well. So if any of you guys that are watching either live or on the replay that are interested in that, DM me, let me know, and I'll send you some information on that. But I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Thank you, Dina. I saw you jump on here. Dom, my wife's on here. Glenn Caldwell, what's happening, brother? Thanks for jumping on. And as always, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this was beneficial. If it was, tag a friend, share it out, get this to more people, and let's keep coming here every single morning, starting our day off right, and let's keep changing the world. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.